This week, Nintendo announced a 99-player version of F-Zero that you can download right now. That's cool, but you know what they didn't announce? That's right, it's another week with no new classic Nintendo Switch Online games. Thankfully, we still have a lot of 8 and 16-bit games to talk about in the review crew, including the 3 games that we're going to talk about today. Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, and that's right, Super Mario Bros. 3. There's no question that these are 3 genuine hits. But are they actually worth playing? To answer that question, I decided to flip through the pages of Electronic Gaming Monthly, The Games Machine, Computer and Video Games, and more classic magazines to see what the critics said back when these games first came out. So go, make sure you're stocked up on mushrooms and have that Tanuki suit ready, because this is another high-flying episode of the Nintendo Switch Online Review Crew.
What will the future bring from Nintendo? More hits like Super Mario Bros. Arcade hits like Kung Fu. Nintendo has the most video game hits. Hogan's Alley, Duck Hunt, and more like baseball and Excitebike. And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
If you grew up in the 1980s, then you don't need me to tell you how big of a deal Super Mario was. Hell, here we are nearly 40 years later, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie was one of the biggest moneymakers of the year. Mario was not only a system seller for Nintendo, but he also pulled America's video game industry out of the void that was the Great Games Crash. He was a genuine, bona fide video game superstar, to the point where he got his own movie, TV show, and even breakfast cereal. He was so big that Sega spent the entire second half of the 80s trying to come up with a compelling mascot. We all know how big Super Mario was when it came to selling home consoles. But what did the critics think of this seminal platformer? Now, if you've watched the show before, then you already know that getting reviews from the mid-1980s was a little tricky, since the few magazines that were around didn't give proper scored takes. But once again, the British press came through. Going back to 1987, the Games Machine said that to play Super Mario Bros. Is to get hooked. Simple to understand, it is therefore easy to play. Nintendo's small-sized controller takes some getting used to, but perseverance reaps its own reward because the graphics and sound are splendid, combining to make a game that is colorful, jolly, and in places pleasantly frustrating as you try to work out the best route round a problem. The Games Machine gave Mario an 89%. Okay, hold on, before you get heated over that low score, it's worth mentioning that most of the other critics gave the game a near-perfect score. For example, you saw Computer and Video Games give Super Mario Bros. A 95%, which just so happens to be the exact same score you saw in Nintendo Magazine System. But if you're looking for a higher number, and I mean a real high number, then let's check in with Ace Magazine and their ridiculous 1,000-point scale, giving it a 955. They called Mario the undisputed king of cutesy platform-style arcade adventures. It looks dead simple as Princess Daisy pleads, "Save me, Mario, save me," at the beginning. But simple, it certainly is not, with 8 levels, each containing 4 separate worlds to explore. The game is crammed with levels, warps, and hidden treats such that you never tire of playing. All in all, I think this is pretty much what I expected out of Super Mario Bros. Reviews. This was a great first entry that everybody liked, some more than others. Let's go ahead and see if the same can be said about the sequel. When it came to releasing a sequel to the mega popular Super Mario Bros., Nintendo had a choice to make. They could release the Japanese sequel, a substantially more difficult carbon copy of the original game, or they could turn an entirely unrelated game into the next Mario installment. They chose the latter, giving Americans a version of Super Mario Bros. 2 that barely resembled the first game. Looking back at it now, Nintendo made the right choice. While the gameplay's a bit different, the core platforming is still in place, and the dream world is a lot more colorful and fun than Mario's so-called lost levels. But look, that's just my opinion. Let's see what the critics said back when Super Mario Bros. 2 first came out. In the case of the Game Machine, they liked the sequel even more than the original. To say that Super Mario Bros. 2 is playable is like saying that the Cray XMP is quite a fast machine. The game redefines the word playable and is far and away a major leap over the original. It's involved, deceptively tricky, has major improvements in the graphics and Sonic League, and most importantly, is superlative fun to play. They ended up giving it a 92%, up from the 89% they gave Super Mario's first outing. Believe it or not, that was actually one of the game's lower scores. We saw Nintendo Magazine System give the sequel a 96% in a capsule review in their very first issue, while it also landed at 910 on Ace's ridiculous 1,000-point scale. Of course, the highest score came from Computer and Video Games, who gave it a 97% and called it a stunning sequel that oozes class and playability. It's the best Nintendo game yet released, missed at your peril. They explain that what makes Super Mario Bros. 2 so great is its playability. It packs in a multitude of surprises and unusual features and combines it with challenging and unbelievably addictive gameplay. The difficulty level is set exactly right, allowing you to get just a little bit further every go. But with 8 big and tough worlds to conquer, there's more than just a fortnight's play here. We're talking about months to discover all the secrets in Super Mario Bros. 2. Now, in case you're wondering, it was Mean Machines that ended up giving the game the lowest score, though you wouldn't know it based on the reviews. Giving it an 89%, Matt argued that Super Mario Bros. 2 is better than the original. Cute and highly detailed characters and colorful backgrounds really make it look cartoony and fun, and the music and the sound effects match the graphics for jolliness. But the gameplay is what's most important, and even in this respect, Super Mario Bros. 2 tops the original. All the new characters and the new abilities add a further dimension to the original platform fun. In the end, nobody cared about the reskinning or the drastic changes made to the gameplay, because Super Mario Bros. 2 is both fun and highly playable. These are the points that kept coming up over and over again. And you know what? I have a hunch that trend's going to continue with Super Mario Bros. 3.
私キャサリンよ。スーパーマリオ USA で敵キャラを演じてるの。おっと、アメリカでは売れっ子だったのよ。今度は日本のお友達を優しく遊ばせてあげるわ。
アメリカ帰りのファミコンソフトスーパーマリオ USA
できちゃった。
Look, I don't need to tell you that Super Mario Bros. 3 was popular. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. There was a whole commercial where the entire world was literally chanting his name. And at the time, it definitely felt like that matched our reality. And to hype us up even more, the Wizard hit theaters with a message that nobody could dispute. That Super Mario Bros. 3 was the best competitive video game ever made. Okay, maybe the Wizard lied to us a little bit, but Super Mario Bros. 3 was such a big deal that made us completely forget about the 16-bit console war that was ramping up. With warp whistles, crazy suits, and so many weird secrets to uncover that Nintendo Power dedicated a whole issue to it, Super Mario Bros. 3 was a pop culture phenomenon. Now, I bet you're expecting me to say that the critics at the time gushed about the game with breathlessly hyperbolic reviews. And, well, you'd be right. That's exactly what happened. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave the game an average score of 9 out of 10, which may not sound like much, but tied the game with Mega Man 2, Ninja Spirit, and Strider as the magazine's second best reviewed game of that year. Steve called it the largest, most detailed, graphically superb, audio-enhanced 3-meg masterpiece loaded with perfect power-ups and extraordinary execution, most fun-to-play game I've ever seen on the Nintendo. This is one of the few games that comes close to a perfect 10 rating. Ed agreed, arguing that Nintendo has done the impossible. They created a game as close to perfection as you can get. Take the best from Super Mario Bros., add the changing personalities of Super Mario Bros. 2, and beef it up with 3 megs of power, hundreds of secrets, and hidden items, and you get the best game ever made for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Before we talk about the highest scores, I first want to draw your attention to what I feel is the most surprising score. It came from Nintendo Power, who gave Super Mario Bros. 3 a 4.5 out of 5, putting it below Ninja Gaiden 2, and Castlevania 3 is the magazine's third best reviewed game of that year. Of course, this was a time when Nintendo Power's reviews were basically just multi-page strategy guides, so they didn't really bother to expand on their opinions, but I felt like it was worth mentioning anyway. If you're looking for the truly high scores, then we need to take a trip over to Britain. That's where you're going to find pretty much every publication giving Mario 3 a score of 98%, including both Mean Machines and Nintendo Magazine System. That was also the score you saw at Computer and Video Games, which concluded that it was the best game ever. Honestly, Super Mario Bros. 3 is so astoundingly brilliant in every way, shape, and form, I'm sorely tempted to go out and buy a Nintendo simply for this cartridge. Graphically, it's untouchable, sound is incredible, the instantly recognizable Mario effects make an appearance along with some great new ones. There is so much to collect, so much to kill, so many locations to find and explore. It's a puzzle as to how the creators had the imagination to come up with a game quite like this, let alone cram it into one cartridge. What else can be said about this, the game to beat all games? Simply this. Super Mario Bros. 3 is one in a million, the Mona Lisa of video gaming. To compare it to anything else would be an insult. Look, it's true. Super Mario Bros. 3 was a landmark game that withstood the test of time. No matter how bad things get, I always know that I'm going to have a great time with this game. And that is what makes it a true classic. So, if you're that one person who hasn't played Super Mario Bros. 3, then just get on it. I'm serious, you won't be disappointed.
Mario! Mario! Mario!
He's back. All you had to do was ask. Super Mario Bros. 3 from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Hey, thanks for watching me break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes of Review Crew every time Nintendo adds old school games to their online service. We have a whole playlist with dozens of these episodes. Go check it out. Now, here's the question I have for you. Which version of Super Mario Bros. 2 is better? The American one that we got, or the Japanese one known over here as the Lost Levels? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back next week with more reviews and more stuff. If you want more stuff, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.